Thank you for listening to Chart Your Fi. I'm your host, Christopher Elder. And on Chart Your Fi, we talk about financial independence and how it is a means to an end to achieving your goals and finding your purpose in life. Stand by for the sounds of freedom. In today's episode, we're going to have Adam Kintigh. Adam is joining us from NCH in Las Vegas, where he currently serves as Executive Corporate Analyst and has been supporting business owners and investors for over 2 decades. Adam specializes in all things from corporations, LLCs, asset protections, tax and legal strategies, estate planning, self directed retirement accounts. Really, anything you need to set up in order to operate your business or investing properly. Adam is your guy. Thank you, Adam, for joining Chart Your Fi. All right, Adam, we were just talking about NCH. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so NCH, the backbone of our company is we form corporations and LLCs, but in-house we have a full legal department. I have one of the best CPA firms. We do tax and accounting for business owners and investors all over the country. We have a business credit team, business plan team. We do estate planning, financial planning. We got a team that does custom websites, trademarks. Really, all the support services for businesses and investors is what we specialize in. So if you're going to start a business, you're going to need some help. The SOP says, you do what you do best, hire the rest.
I like that. So it's like all the dealing with like all the legal side as far as like, hey, like how do I set up a corporation? You guys have set up probably a metric butt ton of corporations over the years. How long has NCH been around?
Yeah, since 1989, so 33 years. Yep.
33 years of experience behind setting up your corporation. And so when you say corporation, so let's say I'm a one person operation, like what would a one person operation be looking at
Yeah, I
corporation?
used I used to always do corporations if you're doing a business. So you're going to sell hot dogs or sell stuff on Amazon or any business, you're an active business. I would always set up corporations. Uh, but over the years, LLCs have become so good that if you're a one man show, I absolutely set up as an LLC. And the big difference is if I do a corporation, you have to do resolutions, amendments, meeting minutes, and all these formalities that nobody ever does.
Hmm.
And because nobody ever does them, uh, you get less legal protection in the event of an accident. You get sued. They subpoena your record book, which you either don't have or don't have it up to date, and your company is worthless. So LLCs, if you set them up properly, once a year you have a board meeting with yourself, and that's it. Very simple to set up, very simple to maintain. We just don't have all the formalities that corporations have. And with a corporation, you can either be a C corporation or an S corporation. So C corporations are for big business, Microsoft, Walmart, all those big companies. They sell stock, raise capital. They're C corporations. For a small business, we do S corporations. And the reason is a C corporation, you get double tax. The company has to pay taxes on its profit, and then it pays you, and you pay tax on the profit. So we end up with these double taxation problems with C corporations. And I'm sure you could figure out how to run a C corporation and not pay double tax. But at the end of the day, almost every single small business in the country, they're either an S Corp or an LLC taxed as an S Corp.
And that sounds like it's pretty advantageous to have somebody like you and your team on your side whenever you want to set up or form any kind of corporation. Um, the LLC, um, so what does LLC stand for?
Limited liability company.
So what when I'm a limited liability company, does that mean that I'm liable for what my company does, or my company's liable for what I do? What's the purpose of forming a LLC?
Yeah, it's limits your liability. So you start any kind of business, I don't care who you are. If you live in the US, you always have to be worried about litigation. Go to any grocery store, pick up every food item there, and what are you going to see? Corporation or LLC? Corporation or LLC? Everybody. And that's, I think, the most litigious field you can get into is food sales. If you screwed up and you had salmonella or something, there was something wrong with your food or drink, we're not talking about just a lawsuit. We're talking about a class action lawsuit, and it
Yeah.
will bury you. So having the corporation or LLC is just legally separating yourself from the business. So in the event of an accident, any problems, you own the company, you control the company. Legally, you're not the company. So it's the corporate veil is really the most valuable benefit from having a corporation or LLC. I was thinking about the other day, back in the day, we used to talk about the three benefits of incorporating TAP: tax savings, asset protection, and privacy. So tax savings, if you set up and operate the business properly, having an LLC or corporation will save you money in taxes. Secondly, is the asset protection. Obviously, we just talked about separating yourself from a business. And it used to be privacy. So it used to be years ago, I could set up a company and I didn't have to put your name anywhere. I could use a nominee officer service. Shareholders, owners were never on public record. Nowadays, though, there's no such thing as privacy. We're operating through the company, and that's what protects you. So, in the event of an accident, you want to make sure that you're not being held personally liable. I was telling you about the forming companies either in Nevada or Wyoming, and it is no joke. So, oftentimes people, if you live in California, well, let's go set up a California LLC or a California corporation. It makes sense. Um, However, there pretty much every state in the country, there's anywhere from 6 to 10 ways of piercing the corporate veil. So it's the goal of every attorney: sue the LLC, take whatever it has, and sue you personally as the owner of the LLC. And statistically, the corporate veil gets pierced almost 50% of the time. This is
Man.
exclusively with small business when you have 5 shareholders or less. And like in your case, Chris, it's you or you and your wife, you're married, you're considered a single member LLC. And that puts you at the higher end of the veil piercing spectrum. Makes it really easy for lawyers to make alter ego claims. They say, well, Chris, you own the LLC, you control the LLC, you are the LLC. This is nothing more than a sham. And you step back and look at it, yeah, that's pretty much this fake thing that we call a corporation or LLC. But in Nevada and Wyoming, they've really set the laws up to protect small businesses. And it has the highest standard of protection that says the only way to pierce the corporate veil, like here in Nevada, it's a 3-prong test to pierce that veil, and all 3 prongs must be met. The third prong being to prove fraud or manifest injustice, which requires the courts go inside your mind to determine your ill intent. We have just a handful of veil piercing cases, things like Ponzi schemes. There are
Yeah.
guys selling mining rights for land they did not own. So if you're not committing fraud, having it set up in Nevada or Wyoming gives you the best legal protection, separating you from a business. I was talking a couple of days ago. I work with a lot of attorneys, and they obviously invest in real estate, as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I was talking to this guy, and he's got a few rental properties, and we were talking about, the pieces that we always like to have is a revocable living trust, your family trust, have an LLC, and have some land trust for each time you're buying rental properties. And I was talking to him about the revocable trust. He says, "Well, I have a friend that's doing our revocable living trust for us." And I said, "Great." I said, "Just as a reminder, do not call it your name. Um, we're going to put your primary residence in that living trust. So don't call it your name. Call it something else." He said, "Well, why does that matter?" I said, "You are an accident injury attorney. Why does that matter?" I said, "If someone comes to your office, they say they just got rear-ended,
Yeah.
what's the first thing you do?" "So tell them to go to the hospital and then stop at the chiropractor." I said, "No, no, no. After that, what's the first thing you do?" He said, "Well, we'll do an asset search and we'll figure out what that guy has." I said, "Exactly. So when people are doing an asset search, they want to see what you have. We want to make sure that the least amount of things on public record, the better off you are. So putting your primary residence into a family trust is always a good idea. So, but from an attorney, this is what they do. They are machines that are built uh, to sue people and make money.
Hmm. Yeah. And so when you say like asset protection and primary residence, so if I were to put my primary residence in a LLC, with other items, is there a way to like segregate your LLC like from other items in the LLC? Like maybe like have does like I think we were talking about trusts within an LLC.
Yeah.
Um, like if I were to have like a LLC and then I have a trust inside of it, that kind of adds an extra layer. We were talking about that a little bit ago. Um, if I were to have one house in one trust and then another house in another trust, is that all underneath the LLC or is that separated?
Yeah. So there's a couple different types of trust that we do. Um, the land trust is when you're buying residential property, think 4 units or less. So fourplex, triplex, duplex, single family home, townhome, condo. Those are considered residential. Each one of those go into their own land trust. It's just a special trust that's just designed to hold title to that one property. That's where we put our rental properties. The LLC owns these trusts. So in the event that tenant slips and falls and they wants to file a lawsuit, you don't own the property, the trust does. Are you the beneficiary of the trust? Nope, sure not. Who is? That LLC. And you're protected. So your primary residence, could you put it into an LLC? You could. However, the whole goal is to separate your personal assets and business assets. So personal asset, primary residence. Business asset is either your business or your rental properties. So that's the whole point of setting up that LLC,
Yeah.
is to separate that. So normally I don't put your primary residence into an LLC. Could you? Yeah, you could. There's always the question, what was the business purpose?
So if you're like house hacking and you have like a duplex, I would probably say it's safer to and let's say it's not the only one. Let's say you're in like you're house hacking and then you want to move that one into the trust after you move into your next one, right? Would that be a better move? So like let's say I'm living in house A and then there's also house B that I just moved from. So house B is inside the trust underneath the LLC, but I'm living in A, so it's not anywhere underneath that LLC until I go buy house C. And then I would move house A into the trust and live into house C. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So house hacking is an awesome strategy. So you buy the duplex, you rent out half or triplex, fourplex, you rent out part of it and live in part of it. So that's a situation though, it's your primary residence, but you're renting it out. And we have a ton of liability having those renters in there. So that's a situation where you're getting the most likely, you're in the military, you're going to buy that property, use your VA loan, buy the property. Now, if you quit claim the property into the LLC, which you have every right to do, you just violated the mortgage agreement. As soon as the bank sells the mortgage or does an internal audit and sees that your name is not on record, they can always come back and invoke the due on sale clause. Hey, where's our money? Shall I eat that mortgage? So instead, we're putting the property into a land trust. There is a federal law called the Garn St. Germain Act of 1982 that when we put property into a trust, the bank cannot invoke the due on sale clause. So I'm going to take that duplex, deed it into a trust. I have the LLC is going to collect the rent, pay the mortgages and taxes, whatever's left over, just write yourself a check. Now you're protected. So now you buy house number two, same thing. If you're going to house hack again, I'm just going to order another land trust. You'll close on the property using your name and your credit, quit claim it into another trust. So under this one LLC, I now have two trusts, one for property A, one for property B. Moving to property three, I'm going to order another trust. So I'll just keep building out the rental portfolio, having that one LLC on top, uh, collecting the rent, paying expenses, gives you the best legal protection without causing a bunch of headaches. The other alternative, like I said, you could just quit claim properties into an LLC, uh, but you will have problems because you violated the mortgage agreement.
Hmm.
So this is a super good way to do it.
And that's pretty darn good advice. Even just knowing that, the little bit of money that you're going to spend on forming your LLC with a corporation like yours, that has 30 plus years of experience, you know, uh, they're going to help guide you through things like that. You're not just buying, someone, you're not just purchasing a product where they go to LegalZoom and fill it out. LegalZoom's not going to sit there and help you out the way that you guys are going to help. You're a full service uh, organization. Is that not correct?
That's correct. So LegalZoom is a great company, and I'm sure it can help a lot of people that are in the do-it-yourself mode and wanting to get things done themselves. And there's a lot of things in life that you can do on your own, but when it comes to this, you owe it to your family, if nobody else, to make sure it's done right. They're relying on you to make good decisions, and a good decision is, yeah, get help and do this thing right. So I was looking at the cost. LegalZoom, their best package, I think it's like $950. Our service costs $1,000, so we're a little bit more expensive, but and we're not sending you a box of paperwork and leaving you on your own. We
Yeah.
have experts that set it up properly from a tax standpoint and from a legal standpoint. And then as questions pop up, all the time you start getting notices in the mail. Hey, what do I do with this? Just call my
Yeah.
office. We'll help you with whatever you need. Give you the proper direction so you're doing things right.
See, and that's where like you guys, uh, you guys are just like way better option, in my opinion, just a way better option because of that fact. I know, like, for example, when I was setting up all my documents, I had a lawyer. I paid a lawyer to look over all my rental documents. Why is that? Because I am not a professional and I need someone on the outside to help me out with that stuff. Now, it was around like year 9 or 7 when I did 7 to 9, something like that, that I finally went and did that. But that was 500 bucks at the time that cost me, and it was the best 500 bucks. It may not even been 500 bucks. It could have been 300. My wife's probably like, it was 300, like when she's listening to this. But it was well spent, just like hiring a CPA. I could do my own taxes, but when I hired a CPA, that guy, oh my goodness. If if my CPA is listening to me right now, thank you. You are the best. I'm not going to say what I spend on him right now because he might be cutting me a deal, but it's the best couple $100 I spend every year. Best couple $100. So yeah, it's great to have professionals on your side. Um, and then whenever you refer, they do good for you, then you refer to them, and so on and so on. So it's like it's customer service, and I could definitely speak that your company has excellent customer service, very responsive team. Uh, let's see. So you mentioned Nevada and Wyoming. Did
Mhm.
we mention that it has the best veil protection already? Did that get
Yeah.
mentioned?
Well, I was talking about the only way to pierce the veil is if they can prove that you're intentionally committing fraud, and that's just a small part of it. Uh, Especially if you're a real estate investor, the bigger benefit is Nevada and Wyoming provide us a law called charging order protection for single member LLCs. That is a really big deal. So let's say that we set up a company in Washington and you're an LLC, put your property in there, accident happens, the insurance company says, sorry, Chris, we don't cover that, which happens often. If the plaintiff can demonstrate that you're not able to satisfy the judgment within a reasonable time frame, which is within 90 to 120 days, judicial foreclosure begins, and the courts will start foreclosing on cash or assets held by that LLC to satisfy the judgment. Under Nevada and Wyoming, the charging order or the judgment that they receive is the exclusive remedy of the judgment creditor, eliminating the possibility of judicial foreclosure. So you become the worst nightmare of these attorneys. they can sue and they can win, but they can't get paid.
Hmm.
Can't pierce the veil. You're not committing fraud. Can't foreclose on cash or assets. They're stuck with a judgment, hoping you someday distribute a profit. So when lawyers are looking at what if they're going to take a case or not, remember, walk outside, walk anywhere, and you'll see signs or hear radio commercials. In a wreck, need a check? We don't win. You don't pay. And you'll notice in areas that have the big apartment complexes, there are billboards all over the place of attorneys advertising for slip and falls. So they know that they're going to file a lawsuit against the owner of that apartment building, and they know that they're going to try and get something. So, with that in mind, the poorest people in this country can hire the best attorneys. It doesn't cost them a dime. You, on the other hand, if you get sued, you can't hire an attorney on contingency. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So, just having this structure in place, it will stem off those frivolous lawsuits if you get it set up properly. And that's one of the secrets of wealthy people is that they use entities to protect their stuff. Whereas people that are short-sighted and foolish, they put the stuff in their name. Oh, we got insurance. We'll be all right. Until you're not. So having those entities set up and being proactive in doing those things, that's something that wealthy people do. And as they build their wealth, they got to protect it. That's the world we live in.
And you just mentioned, it's that forward thinking. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever you leave your car, do you lock the door? Okay, well, that lock on that door doesn't really stop people from getting inside your car. It's just a of level of security that keeps honest people honest. And when lawyers are looking at you, you know, as far as like your assets, they're going to be like, "Oh, this guy locked his car." They could still try to break in, but they're going to be like, "Well, the door's locked, so I'm not going to try any harder because it's going to make too much noise."
Yeah,
So,
when things happen and you have your structure in place, everything is good. You win.
oh yeah, that's it's so important to have things set up correctly. Um, and that's what's so scary, especially if you're trying to do it by yourself, because you don't know what each state is different. Each state, even counties could throw their own thing. So if you're setting up, something in the county and you didn't tell them, your business, you could be pierced because in your county it has a certain stipulation, that you need to be set up that way if you set it up in the state, or vice versa. Am I incorrect in saying that?
I don't know that the county would be a difference, but the state certainly is.
Yeah,
So every state has different laws. Now, where the counties come in is whether or not you have to have a business license or what type
that's
of license you would have. And what they like to do is to fine the hell out of you. So you miss a license, and here's a fine, and here's
oh,
another fine.
I think, yeah, you're right. I was definitely getting the licenses and that stuff mixed up. And my goodness, I've had to deal with counties before. I had a county come after me once, and they're like, "You can't have a kitchen sink in this space." I'm like, "Okay, define kitchen sink and go." And they're like, "Uh, uh." They formally wrote me back, "We cannot define kitchen sink. You could go ahead and keep that sink." I'm like, "Cool. Have a nice
Awesome.
day."
Good.
It's so funny how the little things can get you. But I know if like yeah, that you don't know every single regulation that there is for forming up a LLC, and having someone on your side like NCH would definitely help. Um, so what uh what are some benefits of having an LLC? Like what can a corporation, an LLC do that we talked about how you can transfer your loans over, not transfer your loans, but you can transfer your houses over into it so it's owned by the LLC without, and if it's done correctly, then you don't have any penalties. But what else can you do?
Yeah, so building business credit is a huge benefit, um, but it doesn't work the way people think it works.
Hmm.
So when we talk about building credit, all the time people say, "Well, listen, so here's my plan. I'm going to form the LLC. I'm going to build some business credit, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to buy a house."
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't work that way. So the truth of the matter is that when you're buying rental properties, you're always going to buy the property using your name and your credit. You get the best financing that way. Now there are loan products like that's called DSCR, debt service coverage ratio loans, where they're not looking at your personal, they're looking at the property itself and how much does it produce enough income to cover the monthly payment. Those debt service coverage, they're looking for a 1.25 or above. So if
Hmm.
your property makes, if your rent is $1,000 or your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, they want it to make at least 1250 to be able to cover the debt.
That
So there
makes
are
sense.
some loans like that you can get in the name of the LLC. The rates are higher, cash flows less, usually higher down payments, et cetera. So usually you're going to get the very best financing using your name and your credit, and they don't care about the credit for the business. We were actually at the convention there in New Orleans, and one of the guys there, he funds $1 million, like $2 million is the lowest that he will ever even look at in terms of funding loans. And there was one of our members. He said, "You know, I was working with this company, Adam. And they told me I had to build my credit up so I can get my commercial loan." And I said, "Listen, I could be wrong. I often am. But I don't think that having business credit makes any difference on a commercial loan. But let me ask our commercial loan guy." So I asked him, I said, "Hey, does having a Dun and Bradstreet score help us to get loans when you're underwriting these things?" He said, "What is Dun and Bradstreet?" I said, "That's the business credit reporting agency." He's like, "Yeah, never heard of it. We don't use that." They are literally looking at the property.
Yeah.
So having a good business score, it can help you with other things. Like if you want to go buy a new vehicle or lease a new vehicle in the name of the business, having a good score can be helpful. Or if you want to build some credit up, you know, like a lot of people do Airbnbs, and we have to buy the furniture and things break and we got to replace those things. So rather than using your credit, we could have business credit that we can use for those things. So it can be helpful for the gap funding, everything that hard money lenders, private money lenders, or banks don't cover. We can use business credit for,
Yeah.
but you're not going to buy a house having good business credit. You're going to buy a house having good personal credit. So that's your focus when you're buying rental properties. In a commercial loan, again, they don't care. They want you to have good personal credit, but as long as you got the down payment, they're going to give you the money. They're looking at the value of the property. As long as it appraises, we're good to go.
So I do have a question. If I have a veterans loan, let's say, because we got veterans out there,
Yep.
myself, hopefully being a veteran here soon. Um, I'm active duty. That's why I say I hope I'm a veteran here soon. Um, but with the VA loans, right? So if I have a VA loan and then I transfer it over to a LLC, what is that going to do with my VA loan? Is that
Well, you're not transferring the loan. So you get the VA loan, and that loan is yours. That is in your name. Again, I'm not going to put it to the LLC. I'll put it into a land trust. That
yeah,
land
that's what I
trust
meant.
will be owned by
Land
the
trust.
LLC, right?
Yeah.
So, but the loan stays there. The and you can have a certain number of VA loans based on your entitlement and where you live and all these other factors.
Yeah.
So you can have multiple VA loans. But well, oftentimes what happens is depending on that house you're moving to and what the cost is, you know, normally we move up a little bit as we go from our first house is small and inexpensive, and the next house is a little bit bigger and a little bit better. And now I've got a couple kids, and the next house is even bigger. So they're getting more expensive along the way. So, but the VA loans, that it's in your name, and transferring the property to a trust or transferring it to an LLC doesn't mean I'm transferring the loan. It's just
Yeah.
the title of the property. So if you're going to try and free up some of your VA entitlement, you're going to have to refinance that property into a conventional mortgage. That's how those things work. So I always recommend before ever getting into a property, talk to a guy that does loans, because
Yeah.
that mortgage guy can tell you, here's what I need to see. So if you're thinking about buying a property, and you're thinking about doing house hacking or thinking about an investment, step number one, go talk to your loan guy, see what we need to do and reverse engineer it. You might be worrying about things that you don't need to worry about.
Right.
You might be ready to go right now and you didn't even know it. So call
Didn't
your
even
loan
know
guy.
it.
Yep. Call your loan guy and let's see what they need. And again, don't say anything about LLCs or trust or anything else. That none of those loan guys like to hear the word LLC or trust.
Besides, if you set up your LLC correctly, would they even see it? Yeah.
No, because again, I'm buying the property using my name and my credit.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on the structure after I close on the property.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That goes back into making sure that you have everything set up correctly. And then the business credit thing. That's pretty cool. The aspect that you can set up loans for your company if you have an LLC for furniture, for Airbnbs and automobiles and stuff like that, and take it and fully take advantage of the tax credits that are out there for companies, right?
So
So
yeah, so there's uh, a lot of banks that will do loans for businesses, but the real estate they don't like doing just loans or lines of credit. So if I went to a bank and I went to U.S. Bank, I said, hey, I need a loan for $50,000. I'm going to be furnishing a couple Airbnbs. They're going to say, yeah, we don't loan money to real estate investors. Now, if I go get a credit card, maybe I get 2 or 3 credit cards that have $50,000 on it. I'm good. It's a credit card. I'll get 0% for 12 to 18 months. I'll buy what I need to buy. And as my cash flow starts coming, I'll pay those things off. But they're business cards. So they're not affecting my credit. They're just
mhm.
not showing up on my credit card. I can max those things out all day long. Doesn't affect my personal credit even 1 point. That'll work. So if I'm going to get a business loan, it has to be for an actual business. So we had a couple that was starting a pizza. Well, they actually were buying a pizza restaurant here in Las Vegas, and they needed 80 grand to buy this pizza restaurant. So we had to do a little bit of both. We went to U.S. Bank, got a loan for 50 grand. They gave a startup loan. Basically, the guy's got good credit. It's a pizza shop. They look at the risk involved and say, yeah, we'll give you 50 grand. And then we used the other 30 grand. We had to pull some money off some credit cards to buy that business. But
Yeah.
yeah, I get creative sometimes, but uh, that was a type of business like a pizza shop. It's a physical location versus real estate investor, way too speculative. Banks aren't going to loan you. Must tell them you're going to go buy some cryptocurrency and you want a loan for 50 grand for your new cryptocurrency business. And they're going to tell you no thanks.
um, Cryptocurrency. Hey, how's the crypto market doing today, guys? Uh, and then also on top of that, then you could, when you do use that, and your business is paying for that, you get all the credit card points and all that fun stuff that you can travel with. Um, that's, I mean, I don't advise. So, and whenever we start talking about money, I always put this out there. This is not financial advice. This is just
Okay.
two guys talking. And everybody's situation's different, and we should definitely, if you are going to do any of this stuff, you need to talk to a financial advisor, and you need to talk to, the people that your team that you work with before you make any of the financial decisions. But you do bring up a good point where, we could utilize this to become a bigger corporation. But this is your full-time job when you're doing this stuff. It's not necessarily you're setting up, you got to get a little bit active and involved in this process to build up that passive income. That's why I always tell people it's not, rental income is not truly passive. It's semi-passive because you still have to get in there and do the work. You have to call up the contractors. You have to deal with renters and stuff like that. Unless you have a management company, and then that comes with you still have to do stuff with that management company. You still need to make sure that they're providing you the best service as well. So, but yeah, sorry, I kind of went off on a not a financial advice, uh, even though we talk about financial independence here.
Well, and I'll say as well, I am not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I have attorneys and CPAs in the office that do that work appropriately. I'm the guy that puts it all together and makes sure it's right from a tax and legal standpoint.
Oh
Help
yeah.
you avoid those costly mistakes.
See, that's awesome. Like the fact that I got a guy here that just pretty much like just you're just a nail driver. You're out there just nail driving him. You have experts. I bet you could probably school some of those guys because you've been doing it for so long. But I tell everybody like, hey, you have a little bit of motivation and a little bit of tenacity. You could learn anything, and you can, you know, you could definitely make a name for yourself. You don't have to be the expert in the field. You just have to be willing to go out there and put the work in. Um, what so you said that you have CPAs working for you. What other things besides creating businesses does NCH do?
We have we have our team that helps people build credit. So I was talking, I did an interview earlier today with a lady that um, she heads up our credit team, and we were talking. Her name is Danielle, and I said, Danielle, so yesterday I was helping this guy who he set up his own company, and I'm always careful. He wanted to restructure things. He farmed it himself. He knew it wasn't right, and now things have changed where he's like, yeah, I need this, uh, you know, I need to get this thing done right. We're going to be
Yeah.
making some good money on it. So he said, I built some credit for the company. I just got my DUNS number. I said, well, let me check it out and see. So I went and pulled his DUNS number, and it was a negative. There was nothing there except for negative because he requested his own Dun and Bradstreet number. Dun and Bradstreet will give every business a DUNS number for free. So personal credit is tracked to your social, business is tracked through the DUNS number. And because he requested his own DUNS number, it flagged the account. And now we got to go fix. In
Oh,
his case, we're dissolving that company anyway. But little things you got to be careful about. So we have a credit team that they tell you who to work with, when to work with them. They do all your Dun and Bradstreet stuff for you, so that you're not having to guess on these things. Where it can take a long time. If you really get after it, you could probably build your own business credit within 18 months. On average, it takes a business 5 to 7 years to build up a good score for their company. And we've got systems in place where we can get a good score built up within 3 to 6 months. And the reason is that there are over 600,000 companies in the US that will work with you on business credit. The problem is there are no federal laws regulating business credit. And 99% of the companies out there will only report to Dun and Bradstreet if you screw up and miss a payment. Less than 1% of the companies are reporting positive payments. That's what makes it so tough to build a good score. So we just have systems in place to make sure we work with the right companies at the right time and just quickly build up a good score. It's just the systems and processes to get that score built up. So we have a team
yeah.
that does that. We have self-directed retirement accounts. So if you're ever looking at starting an IRA or a 401k, if you have a small business, we can do a product called a solo 401k. We put a bunch of money into retirement accounts. And I remind people, we're always concerned about money being in the stock market. And you see the volatility of the stock market. Over the years, people have lost a lot of money in the stock market. But over the course of time, the market goes up. So we got to put money in. And the most valuable benefit from investing in an IRA or a 401k is tax free or tax deferred growth. And to realize the value, if you took $1 in every year, you pay in 35% in federal tax. And every year you just double that dollar every year for the next 30 or for the next 20 years. And every year you pay in your 35% in tax. At the end of 20 years, that $1 will become over $20,000, 22,000 change. Not bad. If you take that dollar and you double it every year and you pay no tax, at the end of 20 years, you will have over $1 million in that account. It is crazy. Tax deferred growth is huge. That's
Hmm.
one of the benefits of doing the IRAs and 401ks. But two things we need to make that happen: we need money invested in the account, and we need growth. So we're allowed to do things. Most people, like you're in the military, when you retire, you got this TSP, with some money sitting there and it's invested in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, right? Military gives you a few categories and says, which ones do you want? What we are allowed to do is take that old TSP. When you retire, we can roll that over into a self-directed IRA or a self-directed 401k, and I can use that to buy rental properties, invest in syndicate deals. We have a lot of guys that invest in big syndicate projects that do great. We could do things that are outside the volatility of the stock market. So I can still open a brokerage account up with TD Ameritrade and go buy some Tesla stock or whatever I want. I can still do those things, but I can do other things that those traditional firms don't allow you to do. So those are things that we help with. And I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not the guy that tell you what to buy or where to buy it or when to buy it. I'm an expert on prohibited transactions. And when you are self-directing, oftentimes we can set these things up where you have checkbook control over your retirement funds. So the rule is measure twice, cut once. You want to make sure that you're not writing a check that you shouldn't write because the penalties are severe. So
And
my job is make sure you don't screw it up.
so, and then with that, like if you start up, so let's say you have a W-2 job and you're putting it into your 401k there. Then you start up an LLC and you're a paid member and you set up a 401k through that. Can you put more money into a 401k through that LLC?
Yeah, good question. So if you're under age 50 as an employee, you work for a company, the most you could put in is $20,500 from your employer, Walmart or whoever you work for. You personally can contribute up to 20,500. If you have two companies, say that I work for Walmart and I put 10 grand in through Walmart and I have my own business, I could also put money in, but together they aggregate my employee contributions between Walmart and my own business. The most I can put in as an employee is 20,500 bucks. The companies, however, the company match, that is not aggregated. So if Walmart were to match everything, employer matches can be up to $40,500. So if they did all that, they put in 40 grand, and in my own business, I could put in another 40,000 through my own company. So it's 25% of your business profits. Well, actually, it's 25% of the salary you take from your company, up to 40,500 that my company can put in. So if I own my own small business, I can put $61,000 a year. If I'm over age 50, it's $67,500 a year. And we can really supercharge those retirement accounts.
So, and that's like one thing that a lot of people don't realize is having your own LLC, you can really supercharge, like you said, your retirement accounts. But like that's a lot of money that you can put into these. And check this out. If you set up another LLC, now correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say you're done with Walmart and you have your other LLC and you're like, I'm going to roll this LLC into another one. You could roll both of your retirement accounts into that one single one. Am I incorrect?
Yeah, any old retirement account we can roll into a 401k. So if I started my own solo 401k for my own business, any old retirement account I can roll into my own 401k plan. Now I'll give an asterisk. If you have an inherited IRA, you can't roll that in.
Yeah.
If you have a Roth IRA, we can't roll that in. Roth IRAs and inherited IRAs, we can self-direct those, but we can't roll them into a 401k. Anything else I can roll into a 401k plan.
And and you have to do it within like a certain time frame. I can't remember if it's like 100, if it's 90 days or something like that from whenever you start working underneath that corporation or new job. You have to, there's like a time window.
Yeah,
But
with your own plan, we're not limited. So I could do it any time I want to because it's your own plan. But a lot of these big companies, they say, hey, listen, if you're gonna roll money in, you got to do it within a certain time period. If you're gonna participate, you got to let us know by this time of the year, or you can't put money in the 401k plan. When you're dealing with your own 401k, you're making the rules. You can do what you want when you want.
And that's something that having an LLC or a corporation gives you the power of really creating some serious wealth. Hey, you can't touch till you're 59 and a half, but that's okay. Like it's good to have that pot of money growing. Like, and if I'm just gonna throw out the S&P 500, and if it was in the S&P 500, and because if you're younger, that's kind of what you want. You want a little bit of volatility, because the growth on it's about 11% right now. Even with the negative 22 drop and all that stuff, it's still 10-year average is still 11%. That means your money is doubling just 6.5 years. That's insane. Like your money doubles like every 6.5 years. So why would you not, take advantage of that growth? And then let's say if you were to ask me what the 10-year average was last year, it was like 18.75 for the 10-year average. So that means that your money was doubling every 4 years. And that's, you know, that's how you could definitely set yourself up for the future. So yeah, no, that's awesome. Like retirement accounts. And then do you guys help set up individual not the retirement accounts, man, index funds? Do you guys help out with that at all? Okay. All right.
Nope. I think you're talking about the life insurance policies where you do indexed
No,
universal life. No,
no, no, no, no. But I know you're talking about, man, and I'm not a fan of
I don't do those.
whole I think everybody knows that I am not a fan of whole life, like at all. I think whole life is a scam, but that's just my own personal opinion. I'll bring people that sell whole life on here and I'll let them talk about it, but I'm not a big fan of whole life. I think you could get a lot more out of a term and invest yourself. Like let's say a whole life is going to cost $500. I'm going to go off on a whole life little rabbit hole real quick, but it's like if term life costs you $50 a month for 600,000, right? And and you put the 450, because let's say whole life would cost you 500 a month until you reach a certain number for 10 years. But if you just did that, your own investment plan, you could actually make way more money than the whole life. That's why, and then that whole life starts disappearing. That's why I'm not a big fan of it. Um, Sorry, I'll go down that rabbit hole every time. I just
I'm with you 100% on that. Yeah. So there's a lot of other things that we could invest in. And I just look at I used to be a licensed insurance agent and I was
so
licensed in 43 states. Yeah. Dirty business, just based on the fact that the commissions for selling these whole life policies were huge. So the insurance agent that sets these things up, it's a massive amount of money,
yeah,
a huge commission. And this is why when you do a whole life policy or do an annuity, um, the guys who set these things up get paid a lot of money.
yeah, and
So
usually they're MLMs that are setting it up.
So we're in a position now where, again, there's a lot of other options you have, and for some people, it might be a great thing, and it might work really well for them. In my experience, never have seen the value in it,
Yeah,
and I'm with you. Term life.
term life until you're your own insurance. That term life is just to set you up until you don't need insurance, life insurance. You're always going to need the other insurances.
I agree.
Man, I've had to use my insurance before at a house fire, electrical house fire. Oh my goodness. Thank God. I'm not endorsing travelers, but travelers took care of us. It was a pain in the butt. Any insurance company that you deal with is going to be a pain in the butt, but that company, they did take care of us. But my goodness, if we did not have insurance, I don't even want to think where we'd be at without that insurance.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it was funny because right before our house fire, I was just saying, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm just paying insurance just to pay it until you need it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, man. So how long have you been with NCH?
Yeah, I started in NCH in 2008. So January of 2008. So I'm up to 14, almost 15 years.
Man, you're almost a lifer.
Almost. Yeah, there's a few people here that are been around longer than me, but not many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what makes your company stand out more than the other corporations? What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think makes it stand out the most?
Yeah, it's 100% about the service. So that's I think the key difference and why I've been here for so long. I get so many referrals of family members that their mom and dad need a trust done, or their brother needs help with their taxes, or somebody's starting a new business. Call my friend Adam. He'll help you get set up. So I get a lot of referral business, and it's based off the fact that we just provide good service. So when people need help, we do it right. And my philosophy is I like to educate people. Here's how we're going to operate the business. Here's what I need to keep for documentation. If you're brand new to business, I want to make sure we're doing things right. You're tracking the right expenses. So I just take a few minutes to go over those things.
Yeah.
And later on, they go, oh, that's why Adam asked me to do the expense report. Oh, that's why he said to start calling when I start making money. So that can guide people down the right path. And the service is huge. And that's our entire company philosophy is deliver the wow. We want people to say, wow, I really got great service from NCH. Wow, that was easy. Wow, I'm glad I called those guys. So there are companies that are more expensive and there's companies that are less expensive. But for what we do for you, we're the best company to work with in forming companies and getting help with your taxes and estate planning and the self-directed retirement accounts and the business credit and all those things. And just having one company you can call to take care of that stuff. And there's plenty of stuff I don't do. Like I said, I don't do the insurance. I'm not the guy, the investment advisor to tell you what to buy and when to buy it. So there's certainly things that I do not do. If you're doing, going to take your company public, I don't do that. There are special companies, they'll do SEC filings and things of that nature. That's not me. But anything that's a small business, you're an investor, yep, I'm your guy.
So I'm gonna get to the final questions now. And so but before I do, I just kind of want to say, like, hey, it's absolutely right. It's about the customer service, like Adam was just saying. It's all about that interpersonal connection. And whenever you talk to a company, whether it's NCH or another one, you need to make sure that you connect with them. And you should trust your gut whenever you talk to people. And I trust my gut when I talk to Adam. And I know Adam's in it not just for himself, but he's in it for the right reasons, and that's to provide actual customer service and build relationships. And that's what's very important, to make sure whenever you're dealing with somebody, are they there to make a buck, or are they there to build a relationship? So,
Yep.
I'd like to ask, do you have any books or podcasts that you recommend?
Yeah, my favorite book that I think is the most important book that everybody has to read is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So Stephen Covey, that's probably the number one most important book that everybody should read. I think it has principles that, the book I think is probably written 30 years ago, maybe
Yeah.
20 or 30 years ago, but I always reread it. I always catch something new. It's like reading the Bible. And every time you read it, you get something new out of it. And same thing with that book. I think it's good general business principles that everybody should know. And developing these 7 habits, I think, are going to be good for anybody, no matter what type of business or investing or friendships that you're in. Good book and good principles. So definitely check that one off your list.
Yeah, that's I can't, man, I probably read it probably about the same, like I've read that book so many times over and over again. And the reason why I have that as one of my questions for some people that are probably, why does he always ask which book? Reading is knowledge. And if you don't fill yourself with good knowledge, or like if you're into financial independence, you should be reading and listening to financial independence. I listen to all sorts of different podcasts, and seven habits will get you going in that direction. That's such a great book. And my next question is, if you had a time machine and you're able to go back and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, at this stage of my life, I would tell myself, Adam, you need to start putting in $100 a month into an IRA. $100 a month. That is it. If I'd have started doing that when I was 18 years old, my goodness, my life would be different today. Just
Consistently.
a small amount of money. I could have put in $10 a month. I'd be a millionaire right now. So just that little bit every single month, you don't lose it. And my son, he's in the Army, and so I got him. I told him you got to invest it, got to get your TSP started. When he was in high school, he worked at Walmart, so I made him invest in the Walmart 401k,
Nice.
and now he's in the Army, and he's putting his 10% into his TSP. I said, Isaiah, you don't miss it. You don't miss it a bit.
No,
And just make that part of your life. Is every single paycheck you get 10% going in, and he's doing that. So he's my 18-year-old self right now, and I'm so proud of him. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I bet you're incredibly proud father, especially, having a son. I thought about it. I'm like, what would I do if my son joined the Navy? I'd be proud of him. I'd be proud of him because he committed to something. And that's pretty big to be able to say, hey, my son is a soldier and I'm damn proud of him. That's that's so awesome.
We have six boys. He's my oldest,
Oh
and that's
wow.
yeah. So my wife, I'll tell you what. You want to talk about a proud American? My wife is a diehard, loves our country, loves our military. She is an awesome person, and he is what he is today because of a good mom.
That's yeah, it's so important to have good role models and what and I came from a broken home, so I know what it's like to not have those. And the mere fact that I grew up the way I did was because of the military. Um, but that's so awesome that he had that advantage of having an awesome mom and it seems like an awesome dad. So that's definitely a team effort, and I'm so glad to hear how proud you guys are. And I hope that one day run into them out in the fleet. You never know. It's a it's a small service.
It
Uh,
is, yeah. They're gonna be shipped out to, he said, Lithuania here in January. So do some
oh
training
man,
out there. So he's this is his dream since he was 5 years old. He said, Dad, I get to dress up at the Army every day. I love it.
right?
So he loves it.
I also ask people, do they have actionable content that could change somebody's life today?
But we're talking about putting that little bit of money into retirement. That's one thing. But actionable content is, we talked earlier about, if you're serious about your financial future, you got to have a plan. You got to write it down on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy, but you need to write something down of what your goal is this year and what steps you're going to take to get there. And if the goal is to buy a new house, you know, like I said, go talk to your mortgage guy. What's that number? All right, start making steps toward it. It's amazing the things that happen that we take time to write on paper. If you don't write it down, you're like a ship on the ocean without a rudder. You might hit port someday. We just don't know when or where. So write
I
those
can
things down.
I can appreciate a good nautical term there. So, well, Adam, thank you so much for coming on Chart Your Fi and bestowing us with some of your knowledge. I do appreciate you taking the time. And if you are interested in looking into NCH or contacting Adam or contacting them, what's the best way, Adam, to get a hold of you?
Yeah. Best way is usually is call my office. Well, email me is probably the best way. Just email adam@nchinc.com, and make sure you let me know that you heard about me through Chris Elder, and happy to help with whatever you might need. So just Adam, ADAM, at NCH. That stands for Nevada Corporate Headquarters, NCHINC.com.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to Chart Your Fi, and you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for listening to Chart Your Fi. Again, remember the purpose of Chart Your Fi is to help people realize that financial independence is not the end goal, but a means to accomplish their goal and find their purpose. So, if you felt like you found your purpose or found a way to get to your goals a little bit faster, I'd love to hear about them. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, hit me up on my website, chartyourfi.com, or even hit me up on the notes on here. I will leave a poll and I look forward to seeing you guys out there. You guys take care.